Let's do it. It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the program today. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Joe.
You bet. So let's begin our journey. I always begin with the COVID question. 6 years ago, it changed everything, it changed so much about our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach life and work today?
Ooh, that's a great question. I wish I could say that I was impacted the same way or in a similar way as a lot of other folks. At the time that COVID hit, I was actually working for a biotech company. And the reason I bring that up is we were considered an essential business because we were in the diagnostic space. So the way that it works is you can't run tests if somebody is not in the lab. And we're still in a fairly startup phase. So we just worked on taking every single precaution, have every single protocol in place to keep our employees safe. But most of us chose to be in the office because the camaraderie, the teamwork that we build within that organization, we could not have parts of our team be on site every single day to do what they do to help the patients that we serve, while other functions were at home. So I honestly, during COVID, I think quarantine at home or stayed at home for maybe collectively a month. One, right, 2.5 weeks was because I got it myself. Another 2 weeks was at the very beginning when everything was shut down and we were trying to figure out, right, how long this thing was going to be, what was it. But other than that, I was in the office every single day.
Wow. So speaking of the office, let's get into what you do today in 2026 on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of kids. They're 11 or 12 years old. You're at career day, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize all of the things that you do into something that they can digest?
Oh, that's a great question. I've never been asked that before from a kid's perspective. I love this. The best, well, I probably should not explain my profession the way I explained it to my daughter when she was 6, but if you want to chuckle, I'm happy to. I think if I was to, again, tell the kids is people operations, people and culture. I don't like to refer to it as human resources because I don't think of humans as resources, is a function within the company that is responsible for creating the experience that every single employee has. From the very first time that somebody talks to the company, if they're interested to work for that organization, the entire experience that they have while they're interviewing, everything that that employee that happens to that employee during their tenure with the organization, and again, what happens after they leave the organization, the people function is instrumental in all of it. That is my view. I think, unfortunately, that's not how it is in a lot of other companies. But to me, business strategy is absolutely not separate from people strategy because I have not seen a single company so far that does not have employees and humans in it. So again, that is the most important, I think, aspect and asset of any organization.
So what did you want to be when you were that age? What was your dream job?
Ooh, again, another great question. So when I was very young, honestly, I come from a family where on my dad's side, everyone is a doctor.
Yeah.
And on my mom's side, everybody was a professor in the university. So growing up, both sides were feuding in a healthy way of deciding, right, which path I was going to take. And in a way to them, those were the only two options. I knew early on that either one of the options did not sound interesting to me. And I think it's important to point out I was born in Russia. I moved to the US when I was 13. And interestingly enough, if I reflect back on my early years, I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah.
I knew I had a travel bug in my system for some reason, even though I didn't really have a chance to travel at all. My first big trip was really moving countries. And it wasn't right a trip. It was packing up my entire life and everything I knew and moving to another place that I've never been to. And my only exposure was the movies. And I would say, I think it's important to point out that in 1995, the amount of movies that we were able to watch was very limited because this is only a few years after the fall of communism. So what we consumed, what was on TV was very heavily regulated prior to that. So as soon as I moved to the US, for some reason, again, I decided that I wanted to go into hospitality because I'm like, look, I can make money and I can travel. This is
Yeah.
going to be brilliant.
Uh-huh.
And thankfully, somebody very smart while I was a senior in high school suggested that I try working in the hospitality industry prior to me focusing on getting my degree in that to just see if I liked it. And I cannot thank that person enough because a month and a half after being in the hospitality industry, I very quickly realized it was not for me
Yeah.
at all. Didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I decided to major in business management. I started my career in the office actually kind of accidentally as an administrative assistant and an executive assistant. And the pivotal moment was when I got hired as an executive assistant for a director of human resources. And this is where I would encourage everybody to stand up for yourself. And what I mean by that, speak up, be
Yeah.
your biggest advocate, be your own biggest champion. Because during the interview, I shared that I love to stay busy. I'm a lifetime learner. I'm not the person that can sit and twiddle your thumbs. She promised that she was going to keep me busy. Should have dove in a little bit more to figure out if we had the same definition of busy, but didn't have anything to do 2 weeks in. And I went back to her. I was very honest that I had a lot more capacity. And if she was willing to take a chance on me and give me more, would love it. Thankfully, she did. Started exposing me to HR projects within a few months, completely transitioned to my job being HR. Did my emphasis in human resources in college, and kind of the rest is history.
So, what was that transition from that world in Russia to American culture like? How long did it take for you to get to a level of acclimation to feel like you were, it made sense?
Yeah. Actually, a lot quicker probably than you would expect. First of all, I think it's important to point out that from 10 to 13, I stayed in Russia without my mom. My
Okay.
mom came to the US in 92, and the government at the time literally held me as collateral or hostage and did not let her take me out of the country and told her that I was their biggest incentive for her to come back. So as soon as she came to the US, she started the green card process. As soon as you start that, you can't leave because, well, if you do, you can't come back. And I was literally on a watch list, so I could not leave Russia even to go to any other country because the government expected that, right, we were going to be potentially creative and sneaky to figure out a way for me to not come back. So for 3 years, and again, this is 92 to 95.
Yeah.
The reason I bring up the years, this is pre all of the ways that we communicate, pre all the technology that we have,
Hmm.
where international calls were astronomically expensive, where you're relying on letters. But again, letters going from one country to another across the world, there's no guarantee they would make it. So from 10 to 13, I had to live in a world and be comfortable with it that I might see my mom. It might be weeks, months, or years, or I might never see her.
Yeah.
I, right, was living with my grandparents. I had to navigate a lot of things in a way on my own because, again, love my grandparents to pieces, but it's very difficult for them at that age to relate, right, to a little kid and everything that you're going through. So by the time I moved to the US, it was not as important of where I lived. I just wanted to be again back with my mom. Thankfully, the school I went to in Russia, we took English since first grade. It was British English. So when I came to the US, I could read, I could write. I was terrified of speaking. I started straight in eighth grade. And as English as a second language, everybody expected me to be in that program through high school. But as soon as I figured out that the, again, US is different from the rest of the world, and the metric system and the, right, how we measure temperature, every single
Yeah.
thing, where the rest of the world uses a period in math, right? We in the US use a comma and vice versa. As soon as all of that clicked in,
Yeah.
I was able to actually, in 1 year in school, complete everything um, as a foreign student, and I was in the mainstream classes and actually some more advanced classes starting in high school. So it was a fairly quick adjustment.
So, who's been your hero, your motivational force in your life?
Oh, that's a very tough question. I don't know if one person actually specifically comes to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to just give you an answer just because.
Sure.
Um, I very much right now respect individuals that share their or use their platform to be unapologetically authentic and vulnerable and honest and raw, more about all the bumps in the road, the detours and the challenges that they experienced along the way, because I think that's what makes us real. Versus the individuals that make it sound like I just woke up one day and I was super successful when I was able to start all these companies and all of these, right, had all of these connections and everybody was reaching out to me and knocking down the door to my house. I really appreciate, right, the authenticity in the raw, sticky, muddy, ugly part of it, because that's where I think we have our most incredible lessons. And that's what truly makes us us, not the, in a way, the achievements that we get at the end, which are great, but it's the messy life stuff that
Yeah.
shapes us into the humans that we are.
And we're living through that now in this country. What kind of feelings come up for you as somebody that immigrated to this country, that's assimilated, made your life in this country to watch things that are unfolding in 2026? In what we are always been considered in America a progressive thinking country, but there's levels of us that are reverting back to even Soviet ideals and things that were going on that people weren't into. What kind of emotions are in you now are coming to the surface as you watch this in this country now?
It's soul breaking. Um, I'm honestly very, very scared. And I would say, very, and it just really hurts on that deep human level. And the reason for that is, thankfully, a lot of Americans do not even comprehend what is possible in the bad way. And that's what scares me. Because again, US is, right? Nobody I think ever claimed US is perfect. No country is perfect, right? We have our own issues and all the other things. But this is one of the only countries in the world where you can truly have nothing, start from nothing, and build a life, lose it all, do it again, and be able to do it multiple times. You can reinvent yourself. You have so many chances, so many opportunities, again, if you apply yourself. We do have so many laws that protect us as individuals that I think only exist in theory in other countries. They're there, but right, you can pay somebody off very, again, publicly. I'm not saying that doesn't happen here, but still, the infrastructure overall still protects individuals. What scares me is that I've seen it, right? I grew up in it, the environment where each right gets slowly stripped away, where you're not really seeing it or feeling it in the moment. But when you look back, all of a sudden you're shocked about what happened, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, death by a thousand cuts. I mean, I've had family members that have been executed for being too smart and standing up to the government, and they were executed in front of right other folks to send a message of what happens when you question the government. I lived when I was 10 and the fall of communism happened. The memories that I have is, first of all, going to the store in the morning. If you were lucky enough to find bread, let's say it would be $2 per loaf. Later on in that day, if you went to the store because you needed bread again, if you were able again to find it, it might be $200 for that same loaf.
Wow.
That's the type of inflation we dealt with.
Wow.
I also lived through a time where we had curfew on the streets, which I know we did as well, right, for very short periods of time. But again, Americans don't understand the curfew in other countries. That meant we had tanks on the street. And if you were out past curfew, the tank arm would point at you. And if you were able to run away before it shot at you, good for you.
Yeah.
If you didn't, you were gone and your family could do nothing because it was your fault you were out past
Yeah.
curfew.
Yeah.
I mean, your neighbors could call on you and complain to the government for any reason. I could get upset that you came home with, Whole Foods grocery bag, and I don't know how you make your money and accuse you of anything, and your entire family would disappear and nobody would ever see you.
Wow.
This is not movies. This is real life, and this is what happens when government completely goes unchecked. And I mean, look, Russia had 2-term limits. Putin was the president for both of those terms. He handpicked his successor, who became the president. Putin was the vice president. His, again, handpicked candidate changed the Constitution and removed the term limits. He kicked him out of the office, and he's been the elected president ever since.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think what I would encourage people is not even, right, don't listen to stories like mine, but study history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go and actually educate yourself, read the books, watch the documentaries, understand what has been real
Yep.
and what folks have lived through. And again, in countries that have showed us, right, the extreme of political power. And that's what breaks my heart is I never want that to happen.
Yeah, me too. So let me ask you this. If you were to run into that version of you at 13 before you came to America, in a dream tonight, at your age now, and had a book in your hands that's your life you've lived so far, and you handed it over and said, "This is your life so far," would that young version of you believe that you've orchestrated this life this way?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And the reason I say yes and no is I think all of us, when we are living our life, we take for granted or maybe never actually pause and look at ourselves truly in the mirror and are honest and authentic and vulnerable with ourselves. I think we are our own hardest critics. We always beat ourselves up for all the things that we coulda, shoulda, woulda, or need to do. And very rarely, if ever, we celebrate what we are accomplishing and actually doing. So and the reason again I say yes and no is reflecting back, I realized I've always been a fighter. I've always actually, I'm about to find out if I'm doing my first TEDx talk, and the title of it is The Power of Being Left Behind, not in a negative way, but it's what we choose to do with the situations that we're in. And I think I've always, again, right, been a survivor. I was raised by a single mom. My parents separated. I've always had, right, the dynamic between my mom and dad after the separation was always very interesting. So I had to make decisions very early on that I wanted a relationship with both and tell them that, right, my relationship with each one of them was independent of whatever was going on with them.
Yeah.
I was the latchkey kid. I would travel across Moscow by myself at 5, 6 years old, right, from my mom's house to my grandma's house across the entire city that would take like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I'm talking like, imagine, would you ever imagine a kid, right, at 5 or 6 going across New York City with walking and subway and trains and all of that? No. So that's where I think part of it is yes, because I've just always had something in me that I'm an outlier. I feel like the salmon that goes against the stream.
Yeah.
I've always, right, wanted to live the life that is authentic to me. And I always figured out a way to, I think, just make things happen and at the same time be open to what the universe kind of tells me, right, I'm supposed to be doing as well.
So when you look on the entirety of everything that you've accomplished and overcome and evolved to at this point, what are you the proudest of?
My daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had my daughter at 19, not planned,
Yeah.
right? My first boyfriend, my first love, my first everything. And I was in school full time, working full time, and I found out I was pregnant. The greatest oops of my life. And we, at a very young age, had to figure out how to, right, make it work. Um, we moved out on our own, got married very young. Um, had our own apartment. I was making $13 an hour. He was making $11 an hour, and we made it work.
Yeah.
It was always about her. It was always, right, it wasn't her fault. Her parents were teenagers, and I never wanted her to have anything less than. And she's truly like my inspiration, kind of my purpose for always figuring out a way to make something happen and accomplish it versus using her as an excuse of why I can't.
So when you think about the big word retirement, when it comes into your mind with flashing lights around it, what do you think about? What's retirement make you think about?
Oh, I don't think I'm a retirement kind of person.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is what I'm doing going to change and evolve? Absolutely. And I'm right constantly reiterating and changing what I do all the time as is. But retirement might be more of a balance between helping others, continuing to help organizations create again spaces worthy of talent, um, doing more of giving back. I'm, if you couldn't tell, a crazy dog person. I love, love, love animals. I have 3 dogs myself. Would love to do something like, again, have a sanctuary where I can just, again, literally rescue every single dog I possibly can get my hands on or get involved with sanctuaries that already exist. So my life, it still would be purpose, giving back and helping others. But it just, the mix of maybe where I'm spending my time might be different from what it looks like right now.
So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Ooh, you are really good with tough questions. I That's a great question. I'm again unapologetically me. I'm an outlier. I would call myself a rebel. Not again to say that, right, for the spiciness of it or anything else, but I'm a person that very much values my non-negotiable and my no matter what values. And I need to be able to live my life in such a way that I can always look myself in the mirror and look my daughter in her eyes and have her also be proud of me. So it means that it's making decisions that a lot of time are very, very difficult, especially in the corporate world, that might, again, right, cost me personally, but it is the right thing for the greater good. And that's what I continue to strive to be.
So if anybody has questions, they want to reach out, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that. My website right now is going through a revamp, but it's oksanalukash.com. It should be up in just a couple weeks. And then also LinkedIn is a fantastic way to find me and connect with me. I'm very active, always welcome conversations, engagement, and always, again, happy to, share my experiences and find out what other folks are working on.
Wonderful. Oksana, thank you so much. This has been so good. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. It's been wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you.
Thank you.